So much for joining us today. We are so glad to have you join us and this first session in a restorative practice series. All educators struggle with managing student behaviors at times. When students act out and disturb program schedules, we don't always know how to respond. And in the moment, calming the student is the priority, but that's not going to be the long term solution. When we focus instead on building student skills, we can prevent future incidents and teach students to manage intense emotions productively. When we understand that all students' behavior is caused, we recognize that students act out to fulfill their needs. With our new understanding of student behaviors and the continued commitment to building relationships with our students, we can create inclusive programs where everyone is welcomed and supported. So in today's session, we are going to learn about the causes of student behavior, identify the information that they need to meet student that you need to meet student needs, and we'll get a chance to practice some strategies to build skills and guide positive behaviors. But first, a disclaimer.
This resource was developed in 2024 by the Nita M. Lowy 21st Century Community Learning Center's 21st CCLC National Technical Assistance Center NTAC, funded under a grant from the U.S. Department of Education Department and administered by Synergy Enterprises Incorporated under Cooperative Agreement Number 287E230009 with the Department's Office of Elementary and Secondary Education. Opinions expressed herein do not necessarily reflect the position or policy of the Department, nor does mention of trade names, commercial products, or organizations imply endorsement by the Department or the federal government. This resource is in the public domain. Authorization to reproduce it in whole or in part is granted.
So my name is Brittany Stanton, and I am a technical assistant liaison with the 21st Century Community Learning Center National Technical Assistance Center team. And my background is in education, having spent 7 years teaching in public school systems. And then I had the pleasure of serving as a leader in out of school time programming. And I've also had the opportunity to use some of the things we've going to take a look at today and see how they've impacted the students that I've worked with. And I'm here with my colleague, Yana.
Hey, Brittany, it's great to be with you. And I am really excited to be working on this NTAC grant and talking about all the ways that we can make our out-of-school time programs fit for all of our students.
Thanks so much, Yana. And I know that this topic is also near and dear to you. So I'm hoping it'll be really impactful for everyone attending today. So our NTAC 21st CCLC NTAC vision and mission is really just to support everyone who plays a role in the implementation of 21st CCLC programs so that you can engage and empower students and their families. We do this by providing evidence-based resources and professional learning opportunities like this one today to help build the capacity of stakeholders. The 21st CCLC NTAC is focused on addressing several areas, the impacts of COVID-19, providing equity of access to resources, supporting students' SEL needs, fiscal compliance, statutory and programmatic requirements, and academic areas such as those listed here on the side that you see. Today, we're going to take a look at identifying the functions and the causes of student behaviors. We're going to get an opportunity to practice some strategies to proactively address the behaviors that we see, and we'll restore the safety of the program space with restorative justice circles, and we'll actually act out a restorative justice circle as part of our webinar today. So we need to understand first about student behaviors. We need to understand that behavior is actually communication, that students who are exhibiting these behaviors are trying to tell us something. We also need to understand that behavior is caused. That students are not necessarily making this active choice to act out, that there's some underlying component that is causing the behavior. So ask the question, what exactly is this behavior telling you? Is the student acting out because of an unlearned skill and they're experiencing frustration? Is there an unmet developmental or physical need? Are they hungry? Or is there maybe they lack good sleep, right? Maybe they are not sleeping well at home. Maybe they're experiencing an individual trauma or a community trauma that is really affecting their ability to function in school. Have they seen these behaviors somewhere else? Are they learned behaviors? Are they just repeating things that they've seen? Or maybe they have been taught that this is how you act at a certain given time. And maybe there could be some medical conditions underlying the issues that you're seeing in the behaviors, right? So asking those questions about what is the behavior actually trying to communicate is a really helpful start. Understanding that there are different functions to student behaviors is where we'll spend a significant amount of time today. And there's 4 different functions for student behavior. And by functions, we mean that the child, the student exhibiting these behaviors is trying to accomplish something. And so the first one we're going to take a look at is access. Students try to access tangibles when they're trying to get something that they can touch or have, such as a cookie or a toy. They might be begging or screaming. It might exhibit as throwing tantrums or hitting or biting or grabbing. These are all behaviors that tangible seeking students might be demonstrating. And I know that this is something that many of us have probably seen in around us. Have you ever been in the grocery store and the child wants a candy bar and the family says no and that results in a tantrum? That is an example of access. Attention. So for attention, it's whenever a student is demonstrating a behavior because they want to get attention. They want feedback from the facilitator, from you, or from a peer. Students seeking attention might settle for any type of attention, whether it's negative or positive. Temper tantrums over little things, whining or crying, interrupting, asking for help with simple tasks that don't require assistance, seeking out sympathy or praise by sharing exaggerated stories, telling lies, or arguing. These are all behaviors that attention-seeking students might be demonstrating. Students might escape, right? This is when students use this when they want to avoid something or someone. It might be running away from an activity or suddenly feeling too sick to participate or starting an argument or a physical fight. These are all behaviors that escape-seeking students may be demonstrating. And then we have sensory stimulation. So these are our students who want to experience a pleasant sensation or replace something that's uncomfortable or causing discomfort, right? Students may also seek stimulation to sensitize or desensitize, depending on what that sensory need might be. Students who are overstimulated may also seek to escape overwhelming or negative stimuli. So behaviors you might see could include jumping, skipping, hand flipping, fidgeting, or maybe even rocking back and forth. So whatever behaviors you're seeing, these are the 4 different things that a student might be seeking and that is why they're exhibiting that behavior. So let's look at some examples. I have 4 scenarios for you, and I'll read through them, and then we'll ask you to answer a poll with which function you think is the function of the behavior. And then after the poll, I'll ask somebody if they'll volunteer to unmute and share their rationale. So our first scenario here, we have Tina, and Tina is a third grade student. She is, sorry, I apologize. I'm having trouble with my slide. Okay, you're supposed to be seeing this, but listen closely. Tina is a third grade student. She's always sad and upset when she gets to your program. She often says things like, I don't want to be here. Nobody wants to be friends with me. And she tends to sit alone in the cafeteria to eat by herself. You've never noticed kids being mean to her or excluding her during other activities. So the poll should just pop up right on your screen. And I want to know, what do you think the function of this behavior is? Is it that she's trying to access something? Is she seeking attention? Is she trying to escape? Or is it a sensory stimulation issue? What do you think? We'll give you a few seconds to fill out the poll. I know you're not seeing the prompt. Remember, Tina complains that nobody wants to be her friend. Give you a few more seconds. Okay, so let's take a look at our results. We have a few of you answered that it's an access issue. Some of you, about half or so, said attention, and a few more of you said escape. So these scenarios, there could be multiple things that they are seeking, but I'd love to hear from you about why you identified the function that you did. Is there somebody willing to go off mute and share their rationale to what they chose?
So I work with high school students, and what I've seen is that sometimes they will come to me and share they don't feel, if they can make any friends, they don't have friends, people aren't welcoming, but they also long-term share that they don't like the discomfort of having to be the one to branch out or to open up or to, be assertive for the friendship. So I do think sometimes, complaining inward that no one will be my friend is a way to escape them having to get out of their comfort zone, to be approachable as a friend. So that's why I chose escape, because I just see that happening a little bit in the high school level.
Thank you so much for sharing that rationale. And I agree with the perspective that you shared. That's definitely escape. Whenever we were taking a look at this, we considered it that it was attention seeking, that she was looking for somebody to pay attention to her at that time. This is something I'm sure you've all seen at one time or another, a student who is seeking that attention and maybe is justifying that it's because that that nobody likes them. And there's probably an underlying issue there as to why they're seeking that attention, right? We're going to take a look at a few more scenarios, and hopefully my screen will work for you. I apologize for this technical issue. We're going to I'm going to read to you this scenario. And this is another student. We open study hall time by telling that a group of fourth graders that they have 20 minutes to work on their assignment from the school day, and then they will get a snack. You have a student, Samuel, who throws their book bag down on the table and complains, I don't have any homework. He pulls out his pencil box and dumps it out on the floor and starts throwing balls of paper at other students. So there will be another poll popping up on your screen here asking you to identify, is this access, attention, escape, or sensory stimulation? I'm seeing a variety of answers coming in. Thank you. We'll give you a few more seconds here. Great, let's take a look at those results. So as you can see, we have answers for every single function. I'm wondering if there's somebody who'd be willing to unmute and share their rationale for what they chose. Well, so our student here, Samuel, is really struggling with the tangible piece, right? They're throwing things, they're grasping for things and throwing stuff and trying to access. So when we were taking a look at this, we saw that the function was access, and what they were lacking was they're lacking something that they need to grasp onto, right? Again, a behavior that you probably have seen in your programs before. And usually a response that we might see in those moments are, to discipline the student, not throw things. But the question we need to ask is, what really is going on and causing this? Let's look at another scenario here. Okay, so you have an art program at a high school, and the students say that they wanted to choose and to join this activity, that it's an art program. During the first quarter, your group focuses on clay, and you have one student who is so incredibly engaged and productive. But during the next quarter, whenever your program focuses on a different art project, watercolors, instead of working, Julie sits at her table, constantly tapping her pencil. And her classmates have expressed that it's really annoying when she does that. We'll have a poll for you in just a second here. If you could answer what you think it is: access, attention, escape, or sensory stimulation. We'll give you a few more seconds on that poll. Great, let's take a look at this. So a few of you said it was attention seeking. Some of you said that it is an escape. And quite a few of you said it was sensory stimulation. Is there somebody who might unmute and share their rationale for what they chose? We'd love to hear from you. Feel free to just chime in. So some of you said sensory stimulation, and I can see how you thought that, because the tapping of the pencil is a sensory response, right? The physical tapping and the sound of the tapping. But when we took a look at this, we were thinking that she might be trying to escape, that she was highly engaged before in a project. It has now changed, and the engagement has not been there, right? That she might be trying to escape from something. Now, this is, I'm sure, another function that you might have seen in your programs. And escape could be that daydreaming, the non-participating, but it also could be a physical escape where they're actually running from your classroom, leaving the room, or isolating themselves in a corner because they don't want to participate in something. The question then we need to ask is, why is that occurring? And what we can do to help re-engage that student. We have one more scenario for you. Wonderful, we can see it this time. So Zach is a new 4th grade student in the program. Zach frequently asks to step out because the classroom is too loud and his classmates are annoying. During a group project on the local watershed, the room gets very loud with student enthusiasm. Getting increasingly upset, Zach jumps out of his seat and screams at his classmates to shut up. So a poll will pop up here for you. And is it access, attention, escape, or sensory stimulation? We'll give you a few more seconds here. All right, so let's take a look. Some of you said attention, some of you said escape, but most of you said sensory stimulation. And I wholeheartedly agree. It is a sensory stimulation that we're seeing here, right? Zach, the auditory response where it's too loud in that classroom and he's having a really hard time with that volume, that's a sensory issue. But I would also argue that, sometimes it could be multiple functions or could be multiple things going on. And so for those of you who were thinking it was attention or escape, I'm sure there's things that you're seeing that are justifying that rationale. But in this case, we were thinking sensory stimulation because of the volume issues. So now that we've talked a little bit through these examples, you're going to have an opportunity to do this for yourself. So for a few minutes, we're going to be in breakout rooms. And in your breakout rooms, we want you to think about a student that you work with in your own program. You'll want to maintain confidentiality of that student, but identify who they are without breaking that confidentiality and explain one example of an inappropriate behavior that you've seen from them. And then think about what is the likely cause of that student behavior. Think about those functions that we just talked about. We'll give you guys a few moments in the breakout rooms to discuss, but when we return, we'd love to hear some examples from you guys today. And so in just a moment, Dave Mazza here is going to put us in a breakout room, and we'll see you back in about 6 minutes. All right, I have mostly everyone back. Thank you so much for your engagement in that breakout room. We would love to hear from one or two of you if you'd be willing to unmute and share with us the student and the behavior that you identified and what function of that behavior you were able to talk through in your breakout rooms. Is there anybody that would share? Don't see any raised hands. Feel free to drop in the chat if you'd like to share it that way. That's fine too. In my group, we were talking. Someone volunteered and shared a story about a second grader who was in a classroom that the activity was very specific, and it turns out that the child acting out was because that they did not like the activity. And so we were able to identify that as an escape because the behaviors we were seeing was like temper tantrums and not participating in the activity and removing themselves from the activity. And those are prime examples of escape. And I was really happy to hear from this individual that they were able to find a solution to be able to support this student by making a change in the classroom. And this other classroom had activities that the student was excited about and was engaged in. So there's always a solution and a way to support students, even when they're struggling with some of these behaviors. Most of these behaviors we can all relate to. We've seen in one capacity or another, and some more often than not, right? But we need to think about, how knowing that the causes of student behaviors are impacting our judgments on that student behaviors. So now that we've had a chance to talk a little bit more about those functions of behaviors, how are we going to respond to make sure that we are reducing these behaviors and supporting our students? So we have this chart here, and it lists out our functions that we were talking about. And there are things that we can do that will either increase the behavior or decrease the behavior. So for attention-seeking students, when we give in and we provide that attention during the behavior, it actually is going to then increase the behaviors. Instead, to decrease the behavior, you can plan ignoring and redirection. It's not that we want to forever ignore the student, but giving in the moment is just going to increase that behavior. We want to actively decrease. Looking at sensory stimulation, right? An increase for that behavior would be to remove options for that student, right? And forcing them to continue to experience whatever that sensory stimulation is. To decrease that behavior, we can provide options. So in one of our examples, there was a sensory issue with volume. Maybe they need a quiet spot. Maybe they need headphones. Giving them options for being able to support them in that way will help decrease that behavior. And so we're going to head back to our breakout rooms for a few more minutes and look at a few other examples of a specific student behavior. And what we want to do in those breakout rooms is to create a script for an adult to respond in a way that will actually lower the temperature on that behavior. So when we come back, we'll look for a few people to role play what their scenario was and how the student would respond. So we're headed back to the breakout rooms for a few minutes, and we'll see you back here for a little theater. All right, we'll give folks a few more seconds to get back in the room here. And then we'll take a look at our scenarios. All right, so thank you for participating in those breakout rooms and taking a look at some of our students and what behaviors they were exhibiting. Is there anybody who can volunteer to share how they would talk through some of those scenarios, that little script that you might have developed? Just checking to see if there's any raised hands. Well, that's okay. Oh, Michelle?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Brittany, in our scenario, we had a 7th grade student who in the classroom, they had a guest speaker, and, she pulled her phone out and said, the speaker's boring, and, got her phone taken away. She's in 7th grade. And Andrea made a great point as to the fact that they live for those phones. And we had said it was kind of an attention seeking thing because all attention was brought to her. And then also an access thing because it gave her access to her phone immediately. She grabbed it, pulled it out, and, that might be what she wanted in the end. And then also escape because we don't know what happened after that. But if the adult in the room asked her to leave or took her outside, that may have been her idea all along, was to get out of there because she didn't want to listen to the guest speaker. So we kind of thought in our group it was a few different things.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Michelle, for sharing that. We also, in our group, had several suggestions for our scenario, which was a 9th grade student who wanted to work in groups or with partners, but the activity they needed to complete was an independent activity. So we had a suggestion that maybe it was an access issue, them wanting to work with their peers, but we also had somebody suggesting avoidance, which we identified as escaping, not wanting to do the task at hand. But offering, in our response to them, hey, would it be okay if I worked with you for a few minutes? Or is there anything that I can do to help you on this assignment? So there were several things that we identified as what we could talk about with the students. We hope you found that exercise helpful. We are going to take a look now, and I'm going to hand things over to my colleague, Yana, to introduce this next portion.
Thanks, Brittany. And really what we're talking about here is we've understood some of the causes of student behavior. Now we want to start thinking about the ways in which we're going to respond. And one of the things that is the focus of our area is the idea of restorative practices or restorative justice. And so we are going to be watching a short clip about that topic. We're also going to be learning about some of their vocations, but really it's about giving people that need it a second chance. So to start off with, we are going to play a short video, and this really helps you understand what happens when a child is emotionally dysregulated and what can be done.
Restorative justice is an approach to building community and responding to harm, with roots in indigenous traditions. Schools across the country are applying these strategies to manage classrooms and create inclusive, socially connected, and supportive learning environments.
DC is facing a lot of transition in a multitude of ways that really impact our community. We're facing retention, we're facing the evaluation system of teachers, we're facing gentrification, we're facing poverty, we're facing violence.
Restorative practices can be used to address many needs in a school. Proactive practices include community building, academic instruction, and social-emotional skill building.
As a teacher, I try my best to think of restorative justice as a way of communicating better with my students. So every Monday we had a morning circle. So whether it was just a check-in for about 5 to 10 minutes, we use it as a proactive circle.
The idea is that they're creating a community within their classrooms that everybody feels accountable to. And so when things do go wrong, they come back to the circle and they're able to discuss it in a way that helps repair any damage that has been done to keep things like that from happening again.
We are teaching children to advocate for themselves and the communities in which they will eventually serve and lead. By allowing voice to the conversation, we're teaching young people that your feelings are genuine and important.
Well, before I did the program, I didn't really feel comfortable talking in front of a lot of people and telling them, like, expressing how I felt about stuff. But when I started the program, it's easier to be open and, explain how I feel about a certain topic.
Responsive practices bring together those involved in a significant incident of harm to understand what happened, agree on how to repair harm, and rebuild trust.
Schools are really rethinking, what does discipline mean and when does it need to be utilized and for what purpose? We realize that a student who is outside of the school is not learning. And if we continue to exclude students from their learning environment due to discipline, we continue to put the students, often who need us most, further and further behind. Restorative justice has been used as an alternative to exclusionary practices by really thinking about how to restore the harm that was caused to the community. Sitting at home never restores the harm. It never allows you to sit across the table from your peer and talk about what led you to the actions that you did. What we've learned is that in schools that are implementing restorative practices with fidelity, it's often not the students who need changing, it's actually the adults in the building.
Alrighty. So now that we've heard a little clip about sorry about that. Now that we've heard a little clip about restorative practices, I want to highlight for you all what it really means to have a restorative oriented program. And so in the tool, one of the tools in the toolkit rather, that comes as a huge file for restorative practices, we have something that we call the continuum of restorative practices. And this is really about changing the ways in which your program works by taking it from a almost entirely leadership driven project to one that's like preventative, and really students have a huge voice in the process. So when we're talking about the continuum of restorative practices, really that can look like an environment where we're praising students for their personality, for their background, for their fortitude. But really, we're not enforcing any kind of behavior. It's really just about coming together. And then once you move to something like community building, that is where you focus on building relationships. For a truly restorative experience, that means both sides need to be able to come together and find consensus, and that can only be achieved through meeting down the middle. And keep in mind that this is just a brief introduction. There's a lot more information in the toolkit. I believe Brittany shared it in the chat box. So I really encourage you to check it out. But what we see here is that we want to move and we want to progress from an activity that or unit plan that is really teacher focused, so the teacher is doing almost everything, to one that is student focused, giving them opportunities to explore, giving them opportunities to discover, really making sure that we are in an environment where everyone has an opportunity. And when we're talking about restorative practices, again, this is really about restoring calm and bringing everything back, bringing your program back to a peaceful and positive experience. And when we're talking about restorative justice, there's some best practices that you as an out of school time educator should be focused on and should be thinking about how to emphasize these. So first off, we really need to think about how we're going to encourage students to have those positive relationships. And sometimes that might actually involve modeling empathy. In other words, showing students what it means to care about another person, what it means to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. We also, during any kind of restorative practice, we also want to make sure that we're bringing in multiple perspectives. As you'll see in the presentation later, where we're going to act out some restorative practices, you'll see that we invite a really diverse audience for a restorative practice. That should involve the person who caused harm, the person who was harmed, possibly bystanders, possibly another witness. So you want to give the opportunity to really figure out, okay, what it means to be successful and what it means to have that positive relationship. And to go with that, really, we want to encourage multiple perspectives. Not everybody thinks the same or believes the same. So we want to give the opportunity to really share those pieces. And finally, that can also often involve speaking your home language, whether it's English or a different language in the home. That can help reinforce students' connection to the place where they originated, and also giving the time to show those adults who may not,
Mr. Jared to the front desk, we have a package.
sorry about that, who may not emphasize or value restorative practices in the same way that we do. So as you're thinking about creating these best practices, there's a couple of things you should keep in mind. And the first thing that we would like you to keep in mind are the 5 W's of restorative circles. So a restorative circle is when everybody comes together and stands in a circle, approximately, to discuss an issue, to discuss something that happened. And there's one person who went to the hospital, just as an example, and one person who was not seriously injured, just as an example. Those might be 2 of the people in your group, for example, the person who caused harm and the person who just defended themselves against harm. But there's also other issues. There's issues of making sure that every child has the opportunity and every child is on the same page about what is expected. When you are choosing to head in the direction of restorative justice, we want to make sure that everyone has an equal opportunity to speak and to connect to the content. Now, when we're talking about the 5 W's of restorative circles, the who, so that's what we've been talking about, who should be present, and that should include the person who caused harm, the victim, any relevant observers, possibly community or family members, okay? Then what is it? Obviously, it's a restorative circle. Where would a restorative circle take place? So the way a restorative circle generally looks is you are standing together in a circle. So you want to have that happen in a safe program space where you're able to talk and there's that level of privacy available. So when that is possible, you want to have that kind of safe environment. When a harm is done, that is something we should choose a restorative circle when it's something that affects the community, not just one person. And it's something that you feel is best processed collaboratively. And finally, the why is because we want to restore. And that includes both, getting the funding that you need, or taking the opportunity to discuss next steps with the leadership. But we want to take the time to make sure that even after we're gone, they're ready to use these 5 terms. Now, so those are the 5 W's, but that's not the only thing to remember. We also have the 5 R's. Now, the 5 R's are the really essential elements for a successful restorative practice. And so first of all is relationships. Restorative practices only work when there is a lot of trust in the organization, in the community. Because it is both challenging and incredibly rewarding. So that's something that you do have to be careful of, figure out how you're going to fit research into that work. Then there is respect. So the person that has done harm and the person who has experienced harm need to show some respect to each other. The purpose of a restorative circle is everybody has to listen, everybody has to learn. And so not having that was really different, okay? Then you also want responsibility. Students need to be willing to take responsibility for their actions. We've already talked about the context of what happened and giving you a very brief rundown of what we've done so far, which is essentially not much. And now we want you to think about what responsibilities would you like to take on? What would be really both interesting and rewarding for you? Then we want you to think about repair. So the whole purpose of a restorative circle is to repair harm, to bring our community back to a place where we're comfortable and positive with each other. And finally, reintegration or reconnection. That is the ultimate goal of out of school time fostering or school day, any kind of school day fostering experience as well. Because we want to make sure that students are in a place where they develop really positive relationships and really enjoy those and have that really meaningful way that they are working together. And so today what I'd like us to do is to do a little practice of a restorative circle. And the thing to know is that a serious incident has occurred in our program community, and we are going to ask our host at the beginning of the restorative circle to take some pictures to explain what's going on so that we can not do any of that during the actual ceremony or ceremony is a weird word, activity. There we go. Okay. So what I'm going to ask is we would love to have 6 volunteers to participate in this activity. And once we have those 6 volunteers, we're going to be able to explain exactly what's going on. I'll give you just a couple more seconds to leave your Brittany, do you see any volunteers?
I do not, but that's okay because we can have some of our team here help us out. So I'm happy to be one of the participants.
Me too.
Okay. So Brittany, you said you will be a participant. Shanika, are you willing to participate in this activity?
Of course.
Great. So
I see a thumbs up from
Shanika,
Miguel.
oh, great. Shanika, would you like to be the facilitator?
Sure.
So, Shanika will be the facilitator. I was in Elaine's group, so how about I'll be Elaine again? Brittany, you said you'll be the student bystander. Miguel, would you be the guest speaker?
Sure.
Fantastic. And Michelle, do you want to be another one of our student bystanders?
Sure.
Awesome. So Brittany has shared on the screen the 6 scenarios. So we're going to introduce ourselves, who we are in this activity. So first off is Shanika. Shanika is our facilitator.
Oh, hello everyone.
And Shanika's responsibility is to guide the discussion, to model using affective language, so those I statements. And she is responsible for balancing the ways that we communicate appropriately without really making the student who caused harm, Elaine, really have feel guilty or feel really negative as a result of this activity. We want to treat the restorative justice practice as an opportunity. I'm going to play Elaine. I'm going to be the student who yelled at that the guest speaker was really boring, and I was playing on my phone until it was taken away, and I threw a little bit of a temper tantrum when it was thrown away. Miguel is going to play our guest speaker. Hey, Miguel.
Hello.
And Miguel was insulted when Elaine was on her phone, and then when Elaine screamed while Miguel was talking. This is your first time participating in a restorative circle, but you feel like this is a cool opportunity. Now our first student is Brittany. Say hi, Brittany.
Hi. So I'm going to agree in this situation. I'll be a student bystander who's behind Elaine. We might recall when Yana was sharing that Elaine was feeling really bored. And so I agree with Elaine here. And then I also read something about phones are addictive and checking it can be compulsive. You can, I'm going to think that the facilitator doesn't seem to understand. So I will be on Elaine's side. I'm not going to be particularly cooperative with Shanika.
Thanks, Brittany. And finally, we have Michelle. Michelle is another student bystander. And Michelle is willing to participate, but feels like she's not really involved in this because Michelle didn't do anything while Miguel was speaking. Michelle thinks that Elaine was super embarrassing, and you want it to be clear that you would never do anything like that, and you think that Elaine needs to learn how to control herself. Okay, we're all set?
We're all set.
All set.
Everybody knows their roles. Excellent. So now that we have been assigned our roles, we are ready to get started with our restorative practice. And to do that, one of the things we're going to do, or what we're going to do today with restorative practice, is we're just going to do kind of the very first part. We are going to do the part where we set up an environment for this restorative practice. So what we're going to do is Shanika is going to gavel us to order. And what we have to do first is set some expectations for how we're going to interact with each other. So Shanika, can you role play? Let us know what is expected of us as we're getting started.
Of course. Now, first, I would just like to thank everyone for participating in our circle today. Now, we may not have time to really flesh some things out. If you are hoping to come to a solution, this may not be the place. I do want us all to focus on listening. So we will all get a chance to share our thoughts about the situation, and then we'll just move on from there. Does that sound okay with everyone?
I love that, Shanika. I think you're so right. I love that we're focusing on listening. We have to really think carefully and understand other people's perspectives.
Great. So let's start with what happened.
Well, I'm Elaine, and first of all, I think it's stupid that we're doing this activity. But really what happened, I was just bored, and I was very happy to play silently with my phone. And it's honestly Shanika, the facilitator's fault that all of this happened, because I was just being quiet with my phone until you took my phone away. So really, I'm not to blame. But I'll be honest, I am embarrassed. I don't usually act that way, certainly not in public. So I am a little embarrassed about how I behaved. But it really just came as a result of the fact that I was bored.
Okay, Elaine, so I'm hearing that you were bored and you're also embarrassed about the way you acted during that situation. Is there anyone else who would like to share? We're gonna pass
I want to
around our
share.
talking
I want to
piece.
share. I want to share.
Let's make our way around this circle. So right next to me, I see I'm gonna go to Michelle.
Yeah, so I am so super embarrassed. I don't even want to be in this circle, and I don't even know why I'm here because Elaine acts like this all the time. So I'm not really sure what she's talking about. But as far as having a guest here, we all know how to act when guests are here. So I just feel as though she could have definitely handled it better and just put her phone away.
Okay, so I'm also hearing that you are embarrassed and you believe that we all know how to act when we have a guest with us. Okay, sounds fair. All right, let's hand our talking piece over to Brittany. Brittany, would you like to share?
Thank you. It's about time. I just don't understand why this person is here talking today. I agree with Elaine. It's super boring and it's so dumb that we get in trouble for using our phones.
Hey, that's a valid emotion. So again, I want to make sure that we all get a chance to listen to everyone who's a part of this circle. So we are going to hand our talking piece over to our guest speaker. Miguel, would you like to share something?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm new to this process, so I apologize if I say anything that might insult you all or make you feel out of sorts. But I was invited to speak on behalf of the school. And as I understand it, I was speaking on a topic that you all, the students, had identified that you wanted to hear more about. I tried to be purposely brief, but informative enough that everyone would understand what we were discussing and what we were talking about. And so I was taken aback by Elaine and the use of her phone because the topic I was speaking about or addressing wouldn't have taken us that long, and it just did not seem like you were interested in participating from the get-go. So yes, I was a little insulted, and that's why I confiscated your phone.
So I'm hearing a number of emotions, right? Some of us are feeling embarrassed. I'm hearing some of us feel quite offended after this activity. Some of you are in agreement with a few others in the circle. So let's try to focus ourselves on the harm that was done during this time, right? So I would love to hear from you again, Elaine. Can you tell us a little bit more about uh, your thoughts after that incident occurred? I know you shared that you said that you were bored and you were embarrassed, but do you have any additional thoughts now that you've heard a little bit from everyone in the circle?
I feel like I have to apologize to Miguel because, like, you're right. Like, I do know how to act, but like, I don't know. I feel like, okay, yeah, obviously I didn't do the right thing and I'm sorry about that. But I feel like, Sharika, you're not listening to me. And the fact that, like, I was bored and I wasn't the only one. So it's not like my feelings were wrong anyway. So I feel like, yeah, in the moment I was wrong in that scenario. But there's like a bigger context of like, we're doing things that aren't very fun and interesting. So why are we bothering anyway?
All right, thank you for sharing. So I am hearing that you said that, well, first, thank you for apologizing. Again, we're really focused on listening, right? We're not going to get to a sound solution just yet. I'm also hearing some things that you need from me, right? Is there anything else that anyone from the group needs from me other than maybe more engaging sessions? Or would you like to talk about something that can allow this activity to happen a little bit more smoothly? Yes, Brittany.
Well, I mean, I heard our presenter say that they're here today because we were interested in it, but I don't remember when that was decided. Was I maybe it's when I was out sick? Was there like something that we talked about then that I might have missed? Because I would have said I'm not interested in this.
That's a valid emotion. Now, unfortunately, I can't recall if you were a part of our planning committee with the remaining students. So my apologies, Brittany. Maybe something wasn't communicated. I'll make note of that. Is there anyone else who'd like to share?
I would just like to say I'd like to apologize if the information that I was presenting was boring or in a manner that was boring or that you all were not interested. I tried to involve everyone in the discussion, and I apologize if I did not do that in a manner that that was satisfactory to you all, and I mean that. So, Elaine, I'm sorry. I would be happy to discuss this with you even further after this. Maybe you can help me figure out how to make this more interesting and more how I can be more interactive with students so that in the future I don't have this kind of issue. And it's not an issue. I apologize. Perhaps I overreacted by snatching your phone, but I think you can help me in the future if you don't mind. And so can you, Brittany? I'd like to know how I can improve the presentation.
Thank you, Miguel, for your willingness to sit down with us again around how we can move forward. I would also like to be a part of that conversation. So let's end this circle today with one last question. How can we repair this harm moving forward? Yes.
Well,
Michelle.
it sounds like we're gonna talk. So I feel like I was actually listened to today, which like when we're kids, nobody listens to us like half the time. And I feel like people actually listened, and that feels really nice. Like I feel better. And I did apologize, and I really meant it. So hopefully Miguel feels better. And yeah, harm fixed.
Well, I believe Michelle has one more thing to share.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I feel like I understand Elaine a little bit better now. And maybe with her input, the presenters can maybe give an agenda of what they're going to do, and she'll recognize that it's going to be quick and fast and not take the whole period.
Thank you. And I also learned something from this moment. Brittany, thank you so much for sharing. I may have not been clear with all of students involved with the agenda that we have for our guest speakers. So I'll be mindful of how that planning takes place. So thank you all for your participation. I really appreciate it.
I feel good about this.
Me too.
Tanika, you're a great facilitator.
And scene.
Bravo, bravo.
All right, thank you. Thank you to our wonderful volunteers. We really appreciate you. So let's kind of think about what just happened during that session. And you can either answer in the chat box, or we would love for you to unmute yourself and respond. We would love to hear from you. How did that practice meet the needs of the students in the room? So the 3 students were myself, Brittany, and Michelle. How did that practice, how did that activity we just did meet the needs of students?
If it's all right, I'll kick off the commentary. Oh, go ahead. No, who is that? Hello. I just heard somebody. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
While we're hopefully whoever that is will speak again. Kate Johnson said that it allowed students to be seen and heard. Exactly. And Ellie said that this is amazing and touching. I would love to see this in our local high school. So there's 2 votes in favor of this.
I have had the pleasure in my various education settings, public classrooms, out of school time, to utilize this. You know, the thing that I tried to make real was that there might be a spicy student or 2 in this process. Like, not everybody's going to come into this process calm, cool, and collected. But through the process, students, when they're being heard and listened to, and they have the opportunity to openly speak about whatever it is that has caused them harm, or the other way around, if they have done harm, for them to openly, in a safe space, in a supportive environment, speak to these things, the de-escalation also starts to happen then. right? And so, our little example here wasn't too terribly spicy, but I think that it showed how, Shanika as the facilitator, listening to Elaine, listening to the ones that were a little bit more heated, and offering them that ear really helped them calm down. And that's definitely something that can be true with implementing this in your own spaces. Yana, would it be okay if I show folks where this lives on the NTAC website?
I think that would be a brilliant idea, because this is something that is both really fun and really useful. So I just want to note that on our website we have like a lot more details on facilitating this. So we just gave you like a little tiny taste of what we had. Brittany is navigating to our website right now, and when she goes to our resources, she will show you, she will click on our resources, and head to some of our courses. And this activity really is built out from one of our mini lessons, which is guiding positive student behavior. And if you click on that mini course, the course itself is only about an hour and a half to go through, so it's not very long. But as with all of our resources, it comes with a toolkit, and Brittany is clicking on that right now, and it's downloading, and you'll see all our toolkits are huge and come with many, many resources. So Brittany is opening that toolkit. It might take a second to open up.
So the PDF that was shared moments earlier comes from this toolkit, the Restorative Practices Introduction. And it's a pretty comprehensive tool for getting you started around restorative practices. But as you can see, there's so many wonderful tools in this toolkit that you can utilize for guiding positive student behavior. And it'll download directly to your device, and you can access it that way.
Mm-hmm. And you'll all probably notice that we offer these tools in both Word and PDF format. So you can download it and use it as is, or you can make any changes you like. Take off all our branding, put yours on, and claim you made it yourself. Cool with us. Awesome. Totally take credit. That's great. But really taking this resource as an opportunity, or this, what we showed is just a very, very brief taste. But I think the fact that all of our students were listened to, everybody had the opportunity to speak, was really valuable. I also will note that when you're facilitating this, sometimes you can even have a student act as the facilitator. I will give the warning that is probably not appropriate for students younger than 11th grade. I have done it with incredible success of having the student who did harm actually serve as the facilitator, and I sat with them ahead of time to help them prepare. And it went really well, but that takes a lot of work. And again, I wouldn't do it with a student younger than a junior or a senior. It just takes like a good amount of preparation and a good amount of maturity. So it is something to consider. You can change up who serves as the facilitator, but I would give a little bit of a caution if you want a student to serve as the leader.
That's a great suggestion, Yana.
And Brittany, I think I'll turn it over to you to just talk through what is coming up and kind of getting in touch with us and all those pieces.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Yana, for presenting with me today. You'll get to see us again on some other upcoming NTAC sessions. So we have a huddle. If you've had the opportunity to join us for some of our past huddles, they're really short mini webinars where we provide some walkthroughs of tools on the NTAC website. And so our next one is on Tuesday, May 21st at 1 p.m. On the Learning Recovery Toolkit, which is on the NTAC website, but we'll focus on math and STEAM in that huddle. Again, 30 minutes of just walking through those resources next Tuesday. That'll be followed by the next in our series on servant leadership. If you've been joining us for that series, the next pillar that we'll be focusing on is conceptualization and how you as leaders can use that to move your organizations forward. This takes place on Wednesday, May 29th at 1 p.m. It's a multiple part series. I think this is the 5th out of 10. So if you are interested in the ones that came before, they are on the archived resources on the NTAC website. And thank you so much, Dave, for dropping in the chat links for registering for both of those opportunities. I also want to give you the chance to connect with us. You can scan the QR codes on your screen. If you have any questions, you can always email us at info@21stcclcntac.org. Sign up for our newsletter, which comes out, the messenger comes out with a bunch of resources, tips and tricks and things that can help out of school time programs. Follow us on X and LinkedIn, or visit our website. There's a plethora of resources and things that you will find helpful there. I also want to ask that you take a moment to complete our feedback form for the session today, which will be linked here in the chat for you. The feedback form really helps inform how we continue to plan and offer webinars through the NTAC support. And lastly, I want to put it on your radar if you haven't heard about it yet, the 21st CCLC Summer Symposium. This is a wonderful conference opportunity that is going to be in San Francisco this year at the end of July, beginning of August. The website is going to be live imminently, so keep an eye out for that. And hopefully you will have an opportunity to come and meet some of the members on this call today out in San Francisco. The theme this year is Bridge to Excellence. Together we can, together we will. And there will be a wonderful selection of sessions that will help, provide ideas for increasing program capacity, promoting equity, bridging practitioners and communities to meet students' social, emotional, and academic needs wherever you are. So we hope that you'll sign up for one of maybe our newsletter or check out our website so that you can be apprised of whenever the symposium website goes live. Please take a moment to answer our feedback form. We really appreciate it. And take the opportunity to join us for another training. There's multiple happening we talked about today, but you can always check the website and see what's just around the corner. We thank you so much for attending today and hope you found some of these tips and tricks and tools useful. We will see you again. There will be several other parts to this restorative practice series, and we hope to see you at those, which will be coming up in a few weeks. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. Thank you, Yana, for presenting with me. Thank you to Shanika and Michelle and Miguel for being part of our restorative circle. I had fun. It was a good time.
Thanks, everyone. I had a great time too. It was great to be with you all.
Thanks everybody.
And I wasn't wrong for snatching the phone. Just kidding.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.